Thank you very much to be actually the last one today. Hope it's not only the least one. I like what I just heard. So technology on the short run is getting overestimated, while in the long run, underestimated. Bosch is a 130-year-old company with almost 400,000 people. 400,000 people, and half of these people working mainly in automotive and mainly in combustion engines. So we're not, as a company, only have a transformation topic for my 6-year-old young daughter, but also for about half the people working in my company. So how can not only gigawatt project centralized somewhere have really an impact towards a decarbonization of the future? That's the topic I would like to discuss a bit. I will touch things from the Bosch perspective, of course, and also partially things from the Hydrogen Europe perspective, where I'm roughly for a year now the vice president, and actually my most part is to close the loop, is approving Yorgo Chatzimarkakis' salary every month. That's what the treasurer is actually doing. So what is Bosch actually doing? Bosch works with these 400,000 people, mainly in the automotive. We've heard roughly 40–50% of the people working there. We are also known for an industrial giant, mainly for Bosch Rexroth, but most people know us for the consumer goods, washing machines, power tools, and heating appliances. Also with Viessmann and Weiland. Okay, Viessmann going to be potentially American soon, and Weiland, one of the top 3 heating companies also in Europe. At the one time, obviously investing heavily into electrification for mobility sectors. I partially agree that definitely for smaller vehicles, electrification is definitely the one going to win. For larger application, let's see how much the percentage of hydrogen will be actually on fuel cells. What we always do is actually, and that's when you look at the left part of the lower bottom, is what we call IIoT, Artificial Internet of Things, connecting every single device, because we believe it's not only hardware that needs to be scalable, it's a software level that connects the hardware in the cloud to actually make what we call virtual connected power plants, no matter if it goes to electrolyzer or if it actually goes towards fuel cells. We have started our hydrogen strategy roughly in the year 2016, where we thought about a long way on where hydrogen technology is actually needed. And we are a technology provider. In the automotive, mainly as tier 1, at some of the other sectors actually also being an own OEM. We have decided to heavily invest on the production side of hydrogen and on the usage side of hydrogen. That's why you see a PEM electrolyzer here. Most people know we are not only going for PEM electrolyzer, we're also potentially testing high temperature fuel cells, so SOEC. And on the usage side, we also invest into H2 boilers. Is H2 boilers coming in Europe and Germany? Probably not. Are they going to come in the UK? Probably yes. And being an international conglomerate, we have to provide technology that's not only serving the German, southern German industry, but potentially not even only European, but a worldwide application. So hydrogen boilers definitely going to be playing a role, maybe not in Central Europe, but somewhere else. We go heavily towards the PEM fuel cells for mobility application. For example, we are supplying Nikola in this case, or actually also to H2 engines, especially when it goes off highways. Off highways, heavy industry topics where you need a lot of power at a very small density. And obviously, and this is what I touch a lot, I will touch a lot about the SOFCs, the stationary fuel cells today, very decentralized, and also the PEM or SOEC side for the electrolyzer side. So on the very left side, you see the development, which we just actually started roughly about 2.5–3 years ago. We get the first prototypes already running. SOP for this product, it's going to be almost a 1.25 megawatt electrolyzer. On the left side will be in a year and a half from now. On the very right side, you see the SOFC, where actually SOP is also in roughly 1.5 years. For SOFC, we are just setting up, and whoever is manufacturing, and that knows in 1.5 years means I already have a design freeze. I already have a factory ordered. I already have my suppliers ready. I already have the people hired. So we are, in this case, unstoppable to go into industrialization of fuel cells, roughly 200 megawatt of first output at the first year on the fuel cell side, and probably even much bigger on the electrolyzer side. I jumped this one. What do we do on the electrolyzer side, so production side? On the production side, we have decided not to become an OEM of a full electrolyzer factory, because Bosch is very good when it comes to something that is the size of a fridge, or maybe a double fridge. If it gets to the size that is much bigger than a fridge, goes to a power plant, you rather talk probably to the colleagues of Siemens Energy that know how to put thousands of fridges next to each other to actually make a power plant out of it. But is a power plant always needed? I raise that as a question because I come to that in a second. Because probably also some smaller decentralized application not having 2 gigawatt or 500 megawatt is probably also something, especially when you have smaller surroundings where the energy supply sometimes is peaking, especially when the green energy kicks in. Come to that to a second. On the SOFC side, now again to the usage side, we said we're going to go for decentralized energy production for SOFCs, mainly because they are fuel flexible. Fuel flexible in terms of you can run them on natural gas, you can run them on biomethane, you can also run them on hydrogen. And when you think about decentralized application, I can now wait until my daughter, 6-year-old, is in my age, and we have decentralized hydrogen applications all over the place, and I wait for that technology, and then all of a sudden it comes, or I have a flexible technology that can start now running on natural gas, having also something coming in. We have this 20% of hydrogen flowing in before, and when you switch the network, you don't have a waste of capital using SOFCs because they're also running on hydrogen. You see an application here with 6 units in a row, 100 kilowatt output. Actually, it's going to be probably a little bit more than 100 kilowatt at the end, but using also the thermal output to it, because next to the kindergarten of my daughter, you can use the off-heat for heating or actually for cooling in the summer. You actually overall get efficiency points, not of 30 to 40%, what I just heard before, but approximately 90%. So the waste of heat on an SOFC centralized is actually extremely good, and this is why we are going heavily to this one. Are we having active units already running? We produced roughly 100 of these units already today in multiple applications. We run it, for example, with the Deutsche Telekom for data center management. We run it in Erkelenz at a hospital to avoid backup power, because we throw out the backup power and we have permanent running units there. So if the energy falls out, these units keep running grid independently further and run actually the emergency mode. We have them in application where we have EV charging stations hooked to it, because central Stuttgart downtown, unfortunately, the copper line is pretty thin. So if you put EV charging lines there, at the same time heat pumps there, you do get a grid connection issue. But the natural gas system is existing there easily, you use today, potentially also to retrofit to hydrogen seems to be possible, because we also had something similar like called Stadtgas, also at least in the smaller application topics. I don't want to avoid that retrofitting pipelines in the large scale. It's not going to be that easy, but it's definitely going to be an opportunity, not the only opportunity, but one of the opportunities, also retrofitting them for decentralized usage on hydrogen. I jumped this part. We actually also installed, just for doing use cases, an overall system. In this case, we use Salzgitter plant, where we have a wind park, where we have solar, where we actually make our own hydrogen. The hydrogen we can put into some of the hydrogen cars we have running there. We actually take them in off-season periods where we don't have enough wind to retrofit it and reproduce electricity again, and having a whole cycle installed already to actually not only showcase that to our customers, but also to showcase it to politicians. Salzgitter is part of the Niedersächsischen Wasserstoff Campus, which is the head of Lower Saxonia Hydrogen Valley, where we showcase that together also with hydrogen trains, where we also have Salzgitter Stahl next to it, where we show all the application on a very small area, also to politicians, what it means if you go to a hydrogen application. So overall, we do see hydrogen in very large scales usable. Definitely steel industry, fertilizer industry, probably also these should be the first ones, because immediately turning Salzgitter Stahl into a green steel manufacturing, I think you can avoid 1.5%, 2% of German emission in terms of CO2, of course you do that first. But there is probably a future, and we have heard it before, you underestimate at the beginning, and you overestimate at the beginning, you underestimate at the end. There is something also after the year 2030, after the year 2035, and probably also after the year 2040. And at that moment, a decentralized energy system based on hydrogen is, in Bosch view and my personal view, and also the one within Hydrogen Europe, definitely feasible. Will it be 5%, 10%, 15%, 20%? I do not know. But what I can tell you, every single house is not able if 20% of the pillars are not existing. So if hydrogen will be only 20% of the overall energy system, it's still worth investing billions into this, because also 20% will be a triple billion euro market in total. I'm pretty good on time, because 4 minutes. I got some question open, so please raise them, and thank you very much.
Yes, thanks a lot. We see the question here, and we pick right the first one. Do you believe that hydrogen economy will ramp up dramatically in the next 5 years? This was one of the statements we had in the very first panel discussion yesterday.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because it's pretty easy. When I order machines now, being a technology provider, I need a minimum of 2 years to have the first product coming out. That's just how long the lead time is. Ordering machines, starting manufacturing, getting my supply chain ready. So that means half of the 5 years is almost gone after it really starts. What then actually happens, as I said before, at the moment we are producing 0 electrolyzers, a couple samples, right? They don't count, a couple samples. And then all of a sudden we are producing 500 megawatt annually. Is that a kickstart from nothing to 500? Probably yes. Is 500 a lot compared to what we need? It's almost nothing. So it's definitely a steep development, but obviously the steep development is what I say. It's actually a 492 times 100-meter race we're going to have ahead of us. That's a marathon, right? But it's a marathon almost sometimes in the speed of a 100-meter race, which means you sometimes speed up fast and they probably slow a bit. But I do believe that the next 5 years are probably the decision points if that speeding up is happening. If it's just the next 5 years, honestly, hey, I'm a 130-year-old company, right? I think about what happens in my next 15 years in my career. And that's probably, I would say, yes, 5 years, I would say, start.
We take right the next question. How important will the end user regarding a real decentralized energy system be?
Yeah, that's a good one. So you saw the units, these SOFC units. They look like you can put them in the family house. We decided against the family house at the beginning, mainly because I'm not sure how many people of you probably also own an apartment, so a multi-family house. So if you go to an apartment where you meet the other owners, that's a tough meeting usually, especially when you get new technologies in. So end consumers is not the one that get touched first. I fully believe this one, because that also has some reluctancy into it. I believe that these medium-sized topics like industry parks, commercial buildings, hospitals, where you have a more professional view, probably yes. On the motive side, so automotive side, it could be an end consumer, because at the end he doesn't really care what is in his tank. Is it hydrogen running? Is it natural gas running? Is it gasoline running? Who cares? They are yes. But that really an end consumer really gets into how the electricity comes off the plug, or how the heating system really works, I put a question mark on. So he's in general needed not to be against it, but he's probably also not the one that actively needs to push it.
Because we were just talking about cars. Do you believe in hydrogen cars?
I would love to buy one. I would love to buy one. So if BMW is watching and you need that BMW X5 user, here's one. I would definitely take it. I would struggle a bit on fueling it, to be honest, because living in the Stuttgart area, we only have 2 hydrogen gas stations, so it's not the best one. In general, I personally believe in it. And the funny part is, I don't care so much about efficiency, because very seldom I paid with efficiency. Most of the time I pay with money. And if the money in total is still available and cheap enough that hydrogen is also getting used in mobile application, I fully believe in hydrogen. I don't care so much about the efficiency at the end because, as I said, most people pay in money, not efficiency.
Final question, because it has 3 votes. Do you see potential issues to procure the materials for the production of electrolyzers?
Yeah, well, do I see issues to procure any material that is worldwide produced and harvested in the global economy? Well, there are issues for almost every industry, no matter what kind of product. So are we dependent on some countries which we probably don't like to be dependent on electrolyzer? Probably yes. Am I dependent on some countries which I don't like too much on combustion engines? Also yes. So is that a much bigger hurdle than in a lot of industries today? I don't think so. It's definitely we need to secure them on a long-term business. I fully agree. But that is so much different to a lot of other value chains we're already working in, from solar to batteries and so on. I don't see the big difference there.
Perfect. Thanks again, Wayne Kern. This is your applause.
Thank you very much.